Hey everybody, movie viewer next door here, and the lights may look a bit weird. I had a bit of an issue with the camera. Sometimes it has an issue with the purple lights, but back with another review, and this time it is McBain, film from 1991, directed by James Glickenhaus. McBain. This film stars Christopher Walken, Michael Ironside, Maria Conchita Alonso, and Steve James. And the story is, this film, Santos attempts to lead a people's revolt in Colombia to overthrow the Presidente. When his revolt fails and he is killed, his sister Christina goes to New York to find McBain, a lieutenant Santos rescued during the Vietnam War. McBain agrees to help, recruits his old war buddies, raises some cash by killing a few drug dealers, and then leads an attack to topple the Colombian government. Now, what did I think of McBain? I thought this was pretty great. To be honest, I had a lot of fun with it. Now, when you hear that plot, you might think, oh, it'll be too serious, like a lot of war movies, and I can see that. There are moments of this film which this film never gets too serious, I don't think. I don't think it ever goes into depressing territory. Some movies like this do tend to go there, like Saving Private Ryan, with how meaningless the entire operation becomes by the second half, especially with how much of a dick Private Ryan is. I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that. I don't really like Saving Private Ryan. I don't think it's a great war film. I think it is it has some very shoddy camera work. It seems like the same thing that people will say is shit about other lower budget war movies. They praise that film for the shaky cam, the quick cut editing, they'll shit on other movies for the over the top violence during the war scenes, but for that film it's like, oh, gritty realism. So people are up their own ass about that for sure. If you like Saving Private Ryan or love it, feel free to. I just mean critics that shit on other war movies and say, oh, it's just a ripoff. Not everything's a ripoff of everything. Not every action movie that comes out nowadays is a ripoff of John Wick. Not every science fiction movie that comes out nowadays is a ripoff of Blade Runner or The Matrix. Not every drama is a ripoff of every other drama. But this film, I do think this film does a great job balancing the exciting action sequences and the gritty realism of the drama of this Colombian dictator, basically, who is, to be honest, he's played kind of over the top, to be honest, but I don't really mind it. It doesn't really take away doesn't really take away from my enjoyment of the film at all. But yeah, let me get to the cast. Christopher Walken as McBain. Again, he's a rescued POW. He's rescued by Roberto Santos. I don't think this is a fantastic performance from him. I think he's at least good here. It's nice to see him in a film like this. It kind of feels like a similar role for him, like to Dogs of War. I've never seen that, but just reading what his character is in that. It's nice to see him in the lead role in a kind of war film. This is really a war film. It really is. And I'm not really a big war film person, but I think this cast really helped me get into this one. Maria Conchita Alonso as Cristina Santos. Again, the sister of Roberto Santos. Basically, McBain owes him one, so McBain decides to help with the coup or whatever. Maria Conchita Alonso does a great job in this film. She really does. She shows a lot of emotion. She shows She's a strong female character that's actually well written, because you believe it. You believe what her people are going through. You believe that they're in danger by they're being like fucked over by their own government, and I can kind of see that as someone who's not to be perfectly blunt, not a big fan of the government I currently live in. I'm not really a fan of anyone who's on either side for the most part. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, all left-leaning are bad. There's a lot of bad right-leaning people, but I won't get into that. But Ray Conchita Alonso does a great job. She's great in the fight, and she's actually in quite a few of the action scenes shooting people, and I was so happy that one of the posters that had her with a gun wasn't lying, like every like Natasha Henstridge poster that has her with a gun where she doesn't have one in the film. I think she plays a really interesting character here, and she has some really great moments of acting, to be honest. Michael Ironside as Frank Bruce. He's basically a weapons guy or a geek. He can like get money from McBain that he's gotten from like these drug dealers, and basically get a bunch of weapons for them to use to help with this coup. He's good in the film. He doesn't get a ton to do. Again, it's kind of an ensemble a bit, so I can understand. Steve James as Eastland, another war buddy. I like him in the film. I've always liked him. I wish he could have gotten to use more of his martial arts, because he is a martial artist. But yeah, I like him. Played a fun character. And the other two were Thomas G. Waits as Gil and Jay Patterson as Dr. Dalton. I like both of them. I like this whole crew. I think it's they're interesting characters. They're fun. And yeah, I believe them as war buddies. So yeah, this film, the reason I watched this, I've been curious about the director. The director is James Glickenhaus. He directed 8 films. He directed The Exterminator, which is kind of a cult classic film in the exploitation genre. I don't understand why they're called exploitation films, really. Shakedown with Peter Weller and Sam Elliott. The Protector with Jackie Chan. This film. The Soldier with Ken Wall. Something called The Astrologer. Slaughter of the Innocents with Scott Glenn, and Time Master with Pat Morita and Joanna Pacula. So he's definitely most of his films are kind of like either action films or war films, and that's definitely his forte. I've never seen any of his other films. I do have The Protector on Blu-ray. I have The Exterminator over there. I have the Era Video release, which is the uncut version. And I'm curious to see The Soldier, because I'm curious about Ken Wall's movies. Looks like it could be fun. It's like a Cold War spy thriller, which is cool. But yeah, on the action scenes in this film, I would say that is one of the biggest pluses of the film. Not saying I really like the film. I do have a couple small complaints, but I do really like the film. The action scenes are just really well done, and it's a shame that we'll probably never get action scenes like this ever again, like practical action scenes like this. Like, people nowadays have done action scenes like this, but with CGI blood, CGI muzzle flashes. I am so yawny today. I am so sorry. Just CG everything, which I think is boring, and it's very easy to tell. This film has some great effects work. It really does. And, like, shootout-wise, pretty much everyone stands out. They're very well choreographed, very well done. It's not too over the top where it's unbelievable. I think it's decently well grounded action. It's easy to tell when what you're supposed to be, what you're watching is supposed to be exciting or hard to watch, and there are some scenes in this film that are pretty, you know, hard to watch. And I think in a war film, if you make all of the film that, you kind of desensitize your audience during the runtime. And I think this film does enough of it to where it doesn't come off as mind-numbing, like Saving Private Ryan did. Like, well, I know this isn't a war movie, but Schindler's List, with the constant throughout the film, just being like, oh, we shot another Jew. Oh, we shot another Jew. Like, yeah, that gets really repetitive after a while, and that's why I hate Schindler's List and find it to be a boring piece of shit. And it's definitely pretentious. But yeah, just like, this film does it well. There's a bit near the beginning of the film during the attempt at a coup by Roberto, where he has the Colombian president, like, right there. He's got a gun to his head, and he sees his people about to be run over by tanks, and then he decides not to do it. And I felt the emotion there. I think it was very well done. This isn't just a dumb action movie. And I think most action movies that I watch aren't really dumb. I think people call them that because they're either pushing their whole left-wing agenda or something. Like, they can't just accept that a movie with guns is fun. But then John Wick comes along and it's cool to like guns. These people are fucking hypocrites. But yeah, this film is a lot of fun at many points. I know it might sound weird saying that a war film is fun, because most war films are, let's be honest, anti-war films. Most war films are, like, Saving Private Ryan is an anti-war film. Everything that they do, feels like they didn't accomplish anything, when in the grand scheme of things they did. But what is the point of anti-war films is, what is the cost? How many people did we get killed to save these people? That type of shit. A film that did this well, I think, would be the Stanley Kubrick film. Passive Glory with Kirk Douglas. That film, I think, does it well because stuff like that did happen, where American soldiers were sent on suicide missions. And I believe in the sentiment that our soldiers are not treated like they should be for basically keeping us safe. They basically get, when they get discharged or whatever at the end of their time in the military, they basically get no good treatment. Back in the Vietnam War, many people were unable to get jobs because of the PTSD they suffered, or a lot of people who were employing basically sent them away because they were protesting the Vietnam War, which I don't know where I am on that. I don't really get into history, but it did happen. People were sent away from jobs and not allowed to work, and had to get less than desirable jobs because no one was hiring, Vietnam War veterans, or war veterans in any way. But yeah, a film like this, I feel like this type of film is one that, I don't know if I'd say it's a pro-war film. It's kind of in the middle. Because there are bits where, one of my things, sorry, I'm so itchy today. Itchy and yawny, sorry. There's a bit with Louis, what's his name? He's in so many of these types of movies. Luis Guzman. He's like a drug dealer, and he's like, oh, all those people are just trying to make a living, and we just saw our main characters killing people just trying to make a living. I don't know if this movie was trying to make a political statement or something. It seems to get them mixed up a little bit at that point of the film. From then on, I don't think it really does, but that's one issue, I guess. But yeah, the film, for the most part, keeps its message of actually having a government that will respect its people, I won't say I don't know if I followed every bit of it, but I was entertained. I think the film does a great job of telling a story about these people, really having you follow these people and not just making it, just a dumb war movie with no one to root for. And I think that really adds something to it. Again, while Christopher Walken may not be fantastic, I still think he's a nice lead for this type of film. I think the unnecessary hate that it gets, like on Letterboxd, it's got a 2.7 out of 5, which is like, I guess, normal. On IMDb, it's got a 4.8 out of 10, and I don't agree with that rating at all. I think this is a pretty great film. I do. I think it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of really well executed action. It's a very emotional story, and yeah, I bought the emotional stakes involved. So yeah. Guess I'll get the pros and cons. Again, the cast is a very nice cast for this type of film. Christopher Walken, Michael Ironside, Maria Conchita Alonso, Steve James, underrated actor Stephen James. The direction is very well done by James Glickenhaus. I'm gonna definitely check out more of his films after this. The score from Christopher Frank is really nice, actually. It feels kind of like a late 80s or early 90s score. It's very nice. It kind of reminds me of the American Ninja theme. It's very techno pop inspired at times, but not so much that it like doesn't gel with the action. When the action kicks up, it's more orchestral, more epic, and I really like that. There's some really nice shots. There's a bit in a conference room with the president where the camera is like going around this group of people, and it kind of and then at the end of the scene it kind of like closes in on the president or one of his aides or something. And I thought that was really well done. There's a bit where Christopher Walken and Maria Conchita Alonso are in a bar or in a diner, I think, and the camera like pulls up to them while they're having their conversation, and there's some really nice camera work at play here. It's a very well constructed film. There's some badass moments I forgot to mention. There's like a moment where there's a fighter pilot trying to shoot our main gang's plane down, and then the pilot, who's the doctor's like pretending like the radio doesn't work, and then McBain like takes out his Desert Eagle and just like shoots the pilot in the head. Like shoots across the plane, hits the pilot of he shoots the pilot of the jet in the head, and it's a really badass moment. I really did like that. It could have more of those moments in it, but I think the film is badass as it is. The cons, again, Christopher Walken at moments. I've heard many people say that throughout the entire movie he seems bored. I don't really think that. I think there are moments where he could be doing a bit more, because it is more of an ensemble thing, but they do have Christopher Walken's name on the poster, and his face is big on the poster. I do kind of wish they did more with him. The editing at some points, like sometimes it'll cut from like a dialogue scene to a war scene, and it kind of feels unrelated, so it does feel a bit jittery. And there are bits of dialogue which are definitely pretty, they're very in your face. Like Louis Guzman again was one of the worst parts of it. Not like his acting. Louis Guzman's doing his thing. I'm fine with his thing. Where he's just like, these people are only that you think we're selling drugs to 8-year-olds. I'm giving jobs to these people. I'm paying them $200 a day. Like it, and it kind of comes off very forced. And I do wish that dialogue had been cleaned up a bit. But other than that, I really like this film, and I do suggest that people watch it. I'll Link to Tubi. It's on Tubi. You have to watch it with ads, but you can watch it on Tubi now, and I hope people will watch it and make up their own minds if they enjoy the film. And yeah, if you like the review, comment down below, like, subscribe, and movie reviewer next door.